Welcome to the National Women's Fitness Academy podcast. We're here to talk about women's health, female hormones, body image, and all things health and fitness.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Women's Fitness Academy podcast. I am your host, Ellen. I am a binge eating and body image specialist, as well as an educator and obviously a podcast host for Women's Fitness Academy. Today I'm here in Bali, first episode of 2023, with one of the coaches here at CrossFit Wanderlust where I train, Hattie Kanyo.
Hi.
Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, thank you so much for jumping on. I know you're very busy with all your training and everything that's going on here. So Hattie is one of the coaches here at CrossFit Wanderlust, which is one of the gyms here in Bali that you girls who do the retreats here, you will probably be coming in here for a few sessions. They tend to love the environment here, and it's like a great pool, great environment, great community, great food, like everything is just great here. So definitely make sure that you do pop into Wanderlust, even if you're just coming to Bali for, a holiday. But the reason why I wanted to interview Hattie out of all the coaches is because she has a very specific goal this year.
Yeah, I do.
She wants to go to the CrossFit Games.
We're hoping.
We're hoping.
We're working hard.
Yes, well, anyone who's seen you train in the gym can tell that you're a fucking machine. Like, I remember the first time I saw you, I was like, who the fuck is that girl? Like, surely she's
doing crazy shit.
Yeah, I was like, surely she's not like one of the people who go to the class. I was like, I got her an expression, I look like shit.
Oh no, I've just been working really freaking hard for about 6 years. So just, mind is set for this goal. And yeah.
That's amazing. So tell us a little bit about you. So you obviously live here in Bali, but you're obviously not from here.
Yeah.
So where are you from? How old are you?
So I'm from Canada. I'm 31, and so we live here on and off. The first time we experienced Bali was when me and my boyfriend were like, we kind of want to live somewhere tropical here and there. So we did this around the world trip. We started in Panama. That's a lot closer to Canada. So we were like, that might be where we want to live. We ended up having a shit time because we wanted to live in this mountain town. And when we got there, it was just super windy, super rainy, was not having a great time. We're like, okay, let's go climb this volcano. We love hiking. So we're like, let's climb it. And we got this really cool guide who was like, oh yeah, I can do this climb in like 2 hours or whatever. Just like so fit. And we're like, yeah, that's our kind of guy, right? Because we're fit. And so we're like, let's get up this thing. So we're going. And all of a sudden, Jake and I just start feeling like shit. And I didn't really think of anything because I've never had altitude sickness before. But all of a sudden, I start hallucinating. I thought there was trees all in front of me, branches. And I'm sitting here like swiping these trees away. Meantime, everyone's getting further and further their lights because it was dark out. And I was just like, what's going on? Like, it was just not a great experience. But we ended up hitting Madagascar after that and then ending here. And
Madagascar?
It was pretty cool. We didn't stay a ton of time there. We were there for maybe 5 to 7 days, but it was a cool experience.
Oh, I just
Madagascar was not to move. Yeah, with the lemurs. We got to see the lemurs too.
Oh my god, that would have been so cool.
Yeah, that was more of a stopover, not somewhere where we would want to live.
Right.
But we actually went to a CrossFit gym there, and it was one of the nicest CrossFit gyms I've been to.
No way!
In all places, you're like, Madagascar, what? But it was so nice. There's a guy from Belgium who owns the place, and it was just beautiful.
Oh my god, that's amazing!
Yeah, it was super cool.
Panama, that's in Mexico, right?
That's in, oh my gosh, am I going to get this wrong? It's in Central America, so it's below Mexico. Yeah.
Oh, right. Yeah. So was the plan to originally live there, or did the whole
so that was one of
sicknesses scare you off?
Kind of, yeah. So then, but then when we came here, we were like, oh, Panama is, or Bali is the place. Like, we want to be here. Oh. We became friends with some people right away and just had a close, tight-knit group here. And we were only here for a month, but we just loved it. So then our plan was to come back in 2020, and then the pandemic happened.
Yeah.
But then, so we got this visa, and at that time, Canada closed down, and then all of a sudden, right before our visa expired, we found this tiny little opening, so we're like, let's go! And then we stayed here for 10 months, and now we just come back and forth. Yeah.
Oh, that's
We did
amazing.
go home for a bit, and then now we're back we're here for 4 months, I think, and we leave at the end of this month. So.
Oh my gosh, crazy! Yeah. So before you come to Bali, had you been here before?
I hadn't been here before. No, Jake either. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy. Well, I feel like this place is just like built full of fitness people. Like,
for sure.
Just so much like nice food everywhere. There's like gyms literally on every street.
Everywhere. And yeah, the food is so good.
Yeah.
Like, and there's different food for everyone, right? That's why it's so cool.
Definitely. So talk to me about your CrossFit. Like, how long have you been doing it? Like, when did you get into it? Why did you start?
Yeah, so it kind of saved my life, like fitness in general, really. I've always played sports my whole life, but then right out of high school, I was just a little bit lost, didn't know what I wanted to do. I was going to play rugby, didn't know what I wanted to do in school. So then I just started going down a really dark path. I was just partying too hard. I had a pretty bad eating disorder, and it was just not going good. And then my brother is actually the one who showed me fitness. And so he's like, come to the gym with me. And that changed my life. So I was doing bodybuilding, whatever, went to college for my exercise science. And at that time, my professor, he was doing CrossFit, and he was just like, you need to go, like, you've got the build for it, you have to go. And of course, me, like, thinking about the stereotypical, what everyone thinks about, no, CrossFit, people get hurt, all the stereotypical things, like, I don't want my muscles to grow or whatever, like, get big and bulky, all those kind of things went through my head. But then finally, 3 years later, I tried it and was like, why didn't I start when you told me to? This is the best thing ever. But because at that time I was still kind of like just partying hard, which partying is fine if you want, but then when I started getting the goals towards competing, it was just like, okay, this is what I really want to do, and this is what I really love to do, and finally I found like a purpose again. Yeah. And so that was about 6 years ago. I'm in my 6th year of CrossFit, so
wow,
that's
crazy.
how I found it. And I didn't really start going this hard till last year. I mean, I went pretty hard right away. I was doing 2-a-days. I got my gymnastics quick, I learned really quick. But just in my head, I've never really been able to like reach goals before. And so for the first like 3 or 4 years of CrossFit, I was like, I'm not good enough to get to the CrossFit Games. Like, I'll still do this fun competitive outlet, but I'm not good enough. And then finally I was like, no, let's just like put it all in and just push for the games. And that was last year that I really pushed. And it's easy to be here because, like you said, there's fitness everywhere. And this Wanderlust village is a village of fitness and, healthy living, healthy lifestyle. And so that helped too, where I was able to just put my head down and train really hard. So yeah,
definitely. I actually didn't know that you struggle with eating disorder. And it's something that we do talk about a lot on the podcast, because I think it's something that a lot of people don't talk about enough, really.
Yeah, I know.
Like, it's so common, and like, now ever since being so open on my channel, I get people like daily coming up to me, either on the street, like when I'm out, or messaging me on my Instagram saying like, thank you so much for being so open. Just bringing it up to the open and just seeing that it is actually a very common thing, and especially like amongst young girls. Do you feel comfortable talking about that?
Yeah, for sure.
How did that start for you?
I think growing up, like, it's in my family. My sisters all had one. My mom, just, everybody in my family.
Really? So you grew up seeing it?
My nieces, and I grew up seeing it, and I was a little bit bigger, and I don't really remember when the tables turned, but I do remember always telling myself, like, oh, I'll never throw up, like, that, that's just so nasty, or that's gross, or I can't do it. And then I don't remember when it happened, but all of a sudden I went into the bathroom, grabbed a toothbrush, and just started trying. And like, for the first 3 times that I tried, like, nothing happened. I couldn't make anything happen. I was like, well, this is dumb. And then when it started finally happening, I was like, okay, you just gotta hold on, you'll start losing some weight. And sure enough, I did. And it just wasn't obviously healthy, because I was living at home, and like, my brain, you know, like I was not healthy here, physically, emotionally, everything. And like my mom and I got in fights a lot, you know, because I had no nutrients to my brain. So I was just like always fighting with people, always angry. because you're always hungry, right?
Yeah.
And
always thinking about food.
Yeah, and always just thinking about food. And yeah, it was just not going down a good path. And like, my best friend and I kind of started doing it together. Like, I feel like I didn't push her into it, but she kind of saw that I was doing it. So we kind of just like, we were living together afterwards. And yeah, we both were just trying to find ways of like, how do we get skinnier? Mm. Like I even tried X-Lax once and I was just like, this is stupid. And
laxative?
Yeah, laxative.
Oh my God.
And I was like, what am I doing? And when that didn't work, I was like, okay, back to the drawing board. Like, yeah, it was not good time in my life, and like I said, I was just partying so hard then too, and yeah, fitness saved my life. And actually a friend asked me the other day, she's like, do you think that you went from one extreme to another, like how some people then find fitness and then all of a sudden that's their thing where they're just like, okay, I gotta keep working out, or whatever, you know, like to try to stay like skinny or whatever. But no, for me it was more just like, it was a healthy outlet for me. And so I was really grateful for my brother to show me the ropes of, you know, like going to the gym and being healthy. And yeah, it was just, yeah.
What ages did you struggle with this?
So that was probably around, I want to say, so I was out of high school 17, probably 18, 19. Yeah.
This is so cool. Is it outside?
We got ice cream.
Ice cream trucks are heading to Wanderlust.
Yeah.
That is so strange. So were your whole family struggling at the same time?
I don't really know a ton, but like, I know my sister so I'm really, really far apart from my family. So my sister that's closest to me is 7 years older than me.
Oh, wow.
And then the oldest, she's 14 years older than me.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so I don't really know a ton, but I know my one sister, she had been struggling with it since I think grade 9, if not maybe earlier. And so, yeah, it's not like I ever experienced them doing it. I just knew that my one sister had it. And then, I mean, we don't talk about it a ton in my family, and I wish that we did more. My niece does for sure. She's super open about it, and like her Instagram is amazing for that, where she's open about everything, and it's pretty cool. It's something that I'm trying to do more on my Instagram, just because, like you said, you're super open with it, and like people latch onto those stories, and if it's happening with them, then they feel like they can come talk to us, which I want, because it was something that I struggled with. And you know, like, it's so cool when people do find fitness and they want to be strong, you know. And
yeah,
so yeah, it's really not something that we talked about as a family. I just knew that it was going on.
Yeah.
And then just me being bigger, and sometimes there's things said that like maybe it wasn't meaning to be malicious, but to me in my head I was like, oh no, I'm too big, or whatever it was, right? It was just subconsciously everything that was being said, it stuck with me. And so I think then one day there was just a tipping point where I was like, no, I need to get skinnier, like my sisters or like my mom or whatever, right? I just wanted to be, I think now that I'm saying it out loud, I know that growing up, like, I always wanted to be heard. Like, I was the baby, and I just always wanted to be heard. And I remember watching this family video of like maybe a year ago, and it was me as a little girl. My mom was filming me, and I had these seashells, and I was like, Mom, look at my seashells. And I kept saying, Mom, look at my seashells. And she'd be like, yeah, those are really pretty, Hattie. And then she would go back out filming my other brothers and sisters, and I'd be like, Mom, but look at my seashells. And I take that as like me growing up wanting to be heard so bad. And I understand it wasn't meant like maliciously or anything, but I think because all my other siblings were so much closer that they were closer. And so me as the little annoying one, I was just like, listen to me, like, yeah, so I think that that's something. I was just trying to be heard, and I just wanted to be, you know, like them, I guess. Or
yeah, it makes a lot of sense though, and I think, like, I work with girls with eating disorders every day, and it does often come from like a place of just wanting to be heard and just wanting some attention and some love, and especially at such a young age, we don't understand the difference between attention and love.
Yeah.
We just think that any attention means love, and if we don't get any attention, that means we're not loved. So it's perfectly normal, I think, to start copying like your older siblings. If you saw they were getting attention because they were too skinny and they were throwing up, then obviously that's what you need to do to get attention and love as well.
yeah, yeah,
It's so crazy, like, when we think back to stuff like this, and like, I don't think that anyone who has ever had an eating disorder should like blame their parents or whatever, because I do genuinely think that, well, at least most of our parents try their best, and
for sure.
they love us and they just want the best for us, but we can only do so much. And if they're coming from a place where they haven't healed themselves, then how are they meant to heal their children?
100%. Yeah.
So it's amazing though that you had your brother to be able to pull you out of that world and show you that you're actually capable of so much more than just being skinny. Was the transition hard for you from obviously wanting to just be like really, really thin to then going into CrossFit, where like if you're going to be good, you're going to put on some size, like muscle. Like, you're not a big girl now, but you know, you have muscle. Was it hard?
I think the hard thing was just knowing that I could throw up at any time. Like, that was the biggest thing, was like the in-between phase, because I didn't actually start CrossFit for like another 3 years or something after I stopped. So I was more just in the bodybuilding area where I wasn't quite, like big yet or like super fit. I was just kind of trying to find my way in fitness. And I took exercise science, and then in college I was running. So that was kind of like, I was still pretty skinny then. And then I played soccer the next year. And so I was still kind of skinny then because I was just constantly running. So I think that I think for me it transitioned really well, because I found these fitnesses, but like I said, running, I was still a little bit skinny, so it was okay. And then soccer, still a little bit skinny, but I started adding size. Like, I started adding size very incrementally, and so I think that helped with that. But it probably took maybe a year or so of me like throwing up still, right? Like, where it's still in your head and where you're like, ooh, I ate too much. Okay, I'm going to go and do it. But yeah, I think for me, it was a great transition, because I just incrementally added a little bit. And now I'm like, I think 25 pounds heavier than when I was a runner. It's crazy to think about, but it's just like, I don't ever think about going back to that size. So, because I think the big thing that goes through my head is remember what your body can do. And I just made a post about this yesterday, is like, I tend to hate my arms in photos or whatever, and but I try to tell myself, I just try to sit there and be like, okay, remember what those freaking arms can do, right? Like, they can do muscle ups, they can do handstand stuff, right? So that's kind of what goes through my mind when I have those feelings. Yeah. No, and it's so true, and I think that's what's so amazing with the CrossFit. Like, for me, it was also something that really helped me kind of change how I looked at myself, coming from like a bodybuilding background when everyone just wants to look a certain way. CrossFit is like you come to a CrossFit competition or a CrossFit gym, everybody's going to be different. Like, every single, like, you look completely different to Sarah, to Laura, like, everyone looks so different here. And everyone's still really, really good, and they can still be absolutely amazing. Like, just look at like the top 3 at the CrossFit Games. Like, they all have completely different bodies. And they're still incredible athletes. Incredible. It is true. Like, look at Tia, then look at Laura Horvath, and then look at,
And I think...
And I never really looked at it that way either, but you can just have a different freaking body type, but we're all doing, like, all these crazy, cool movements, and, I love that.
And I think there's a lot of people who come to CrossFit for that reason, because no one ever... Like, you don't come to the gym to hear that someone says, oh, you have, like, oh my god, look at your abs, they're so shredded, or like, you look like really lean training today, or, you know, no one really cares. Like, all that anyone cares about is that you show up, you work hard, you try your best. And if that is lifting an 8 kilo kettlebell, or if that's lifting 24 kilo kettlebell, like, no one really cares.
No, exactly. That's what I always tell people too. Is like, people can be on this level and this level, but in the end, we're all right here, because it doesn't matter how much you're lifting. Everyone is, the community is just amazing. We're all cheering each other on. Like, let's go. No one's sitting there being like, ooh, you have an 8 kilo, you know, like I'm using 15.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter. We're all trying our best.
Yeah.
And I love it. I love it for that.
Exactly.
The community aspect, right?
Yeah, 100%, 100%. So every time I talk about CrossFit to people, they're always like, oh, it's a cult. I couldn't
it might be, but it's the best cult you can ever be a part of, because it's amazing.
Yeah. Did you have any of those kind of, like, feelings when you first joined? Like, oh, I don't want to... Like, what did you think about CrossFit before you actually joined it?
Yeah, I just had those stereotypical thoughts of, like, oh, people get hurt, or, people are getting all bulky and crazy, but... once I started, I was just like, oh man, this is the best thing ever. But yeah, I did have those regular stereotypical feelings of like how they looked. And I think the biggest thing is you look at the CrossFit Games, and that's how you think all of a sudden you're going to look. God. You're just like, whoa, I'm going to look like that if I do that. It's like, no, they just put in like 10 years of work on their fitness and nutrition, right? I think everyone has those feelings at first about CrossFit, but once you're in it, it's like, okay. It always comes back for me is look at what your body can do, right?
Yeah, absolutely, 100% agree. That's why, like, now when I'm injured and I can't do it, I feel like, oh, I can't do anything, I'm useless. But
I hear you. The injuries are the worst. I have a little niggle in my shoulder, and some days, because I don't get injuries often, and I feel so bad for people that do, because it's like, this sucks, right? And it was just me being stupid, and that's the biggest thing, is like, the stereotypical everyone's hurt. No, it's not like that.
No.
It's if you just stop listening to your body. And sometimes I do know if I go too hard, then that's when I start forgetting to, like, feel my body, and then that's when those injuries you're more prone to those injuries.
Yeah. And, like, any elite level sport is going to have injuries.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It doesn't matter if you do cross-country skiing. Like, anything will have injuries. If you can look at marathon runners, like, I can guarantee you that their knees and joints and everything, their body's not good.
Yeah, for sure.
So it's just, I think it just comes from this, like, stereotypical stereotype that people had about CrossFit, because when it first came out, I remember watching videos on YouTube and people doing, like, random butterfly pull-ups.
And it was
like,
nuts. Yeah, it's like, what are those bodies doing? What are you doing? Yeah, the butterfly, like, what?
Or, like, there's this video about Annie doing her first muscle-up at the CrossFit Games, and she's just like, bringing her arms over.
Little chicken wing.
It just looks like, oh my god, your shoulders are going to dislocate any second now.
For sure.
And, like, if you just watch that, of course you're going to injure. Like, that's not what CrossFit is about anymore. It has come such a long way. So this year you obviously have as the big goal to get to the CrossFit Games. And for those of you who don't know, that is like the World Championship of CrossFit, basically. So what is the process of getting there? Because like most of the listeners, I'm sure that they don't know about the Open and qualifiers and stuff like that. So talk us through, what is it that you have to do to get there?
Yeah, so they've been changing it a lot over the past years.
Yeah,
oh man, so they used to have regionals a long time ago. I think you could get there from the Open. I didn't really know back then, but now they've changed it. So the Open starts in February. It's 3 weeks long. It's always been 5 weeks, but now they've changed it to 3. So every week you do one workout. From those workouts, you either have to film yourself or have a certified judge you, and then you get to put your like time or your reps or whatever online. Then there's a worldwide leaderboard. So wherever you are on that leaderboard, top 10% after those 3 weeks gets to go to another online competition. It's called quarterfinals.
Okay.
So someone was laughing at me the other day because I can't remember, but I think it's only like a span of 5 days or something, and there's 3 workouts. Oh. I thought there was another 3 weeks, and he was like, no, are you crazy? And I'm like, I don't remember yesterday, let alone a year ago, so I'm just trying to work hard to get there.
And they change it all the time.
And they change it all the time. I'm like, come on, guys. I haven't read the rule book yet, but yeah, I think it's like around 5 or 6 days or something. You have to get in another 3 workouts, maybe 4 workouts. Again, put all your scores in online, and then you're on that leaderboard. And so then they have regions. There's North America, Asia, Oceania. Okay. And each region gets to send a certain amount of people to the games. So, like, Australia only gets to send 2 people. Yeah, it's crazy.
Shit.
But that's what they're changing this year. So the better you do in the open, quarterfinals, semifinals, and if you get to the games, then your region gets point system. So if North America, because there's so many in North America, of course we're going to get a lot more point system because there are a lot of good athletes from there. But say Australia got like in the Worldwide Open, they got like the top 5 or something, then maybe they would give them another spot to go to the games. So they might give them an extra one. So maybe they would take 3 next year.
Oh, so they're going next year.
Yeah, they're going off of this year and last year. So then next year it'll kind of change up a little bit. Right. But yeah, so I'll be a part of North America, and last year they had 4 semifinals. So from quarterfinals you go to semifinals, which is all in person. Oh. So last year I got to semifinals, and I got to go to one of the 4 different semifinals. And then this year they actually changed it again, and there's only 2 semifinals.
Oh my god.
So now it's just North America, West and East. Okay. So now, yeah, they're taking a certain amount from each. They're taking 10 athletes from each that go to the games.
Right.
And then the other ones get a lot less, but yeah.
So how many in total are going
40
to the games? 40. Yeah. That's always been 40, right?
Yeah.
God, it was so much easier back in the day when it was just open, the online qualifier, regionals, CrossFit Games.
And get there. Yeah, I know. It's crazy. They're just trying to figure out what works best, I guess. But, like, wasn't regionals good? I always wanted to go to regionals. But now these semifinals are kind of like it. But I just wish I was a part of the fun regionals.
Yeah.
But they are doing it like regionals where all the workouts are going to be the same now. So last year, every different semifinal had different workouts.
Actually, I remember watching that, yeah.
Yeah. Which is okay to a point, but at the same time, it's like then you can't see where you stack up with other athletes. So I think it's really cool that they're doing all the same workouts.
I think that's what it should be like. Yeah. It should be fair. Like,
for sure.
Otherwise, it's not really, like if one person's doing muscle ups and another person's doing, I don't know, handstand walking, like it's not really the same movement, so.
For sure. And like the thing is, my semifinals really catered to me, which was awesome. Oh. But it was like, yeah, what if it didn't, right? Then we don't know where I would have been, but yeah, it's just crazy like that. But then it could still happen like that, right? If, this year it's not catering to me, I just gotta work hard.
So what are you doing? So it starts in February.
Yeah.
What are you doing to prepare for all this crazy stuff that's gonna happen?
So right now I'm in a deload week.
I love it.
Yeah, nice. You gotta give yourself some rest. Taking it pretty chill. And then next week we ramp things up again because we only have about 6 weeks, and we'll probably do like a 5-6 week cycle of, we're just gonna hammer some strength and then a bunch of stuff under fatigue, lots of AMRAPs, just kind of like open style workouts where it's just go, go, go. Yeah. And then, like I said, strength is one thing I need to work on as well. Just a lot of work. 4 to 6 hours of training per day. But I do...
That's what I do in a week.
But that also includes mobility and stuff too. This is something that I need to prioritize this cycle is mobility, because last cycle it was an accumulation phase. So it just ramped up. By the 6th week, my body was so messed up. And because my sessions were so long, I didn't have a ton of time for mobility, and I can feel it in my body. So this cycle, we're prioritizing a lot more mobility and stretching and stuff like that. So that does include that in the 4 to 6 hours. But yeah, and then but Sunday I take completely off. It's not every single day, and then Thursday is more of like a active recovery day.
Oh, okay.
So usually I'll swim or do some zone 2 training or something, and go on a long walk, depending on how my body feels.
Yeah,
I usually go by feel. I think that's a big thing when you're in your training. Is like listening to your body is huge, and you know, just looking at your programming and being like, okay, no, we have to do it exactly how it is. I used to be that person where I was like, I'm going to let down my coach, I'm going to let down blah, blah, blah. But what's more important is listening to your body. And if you need a day off or something, then that's totally fine. You're not going to lose all that work that you just did in 1 day rest, even 2, right? It's just, it's
hear that, girls? Listen to your freaking bodies. Because it's so difficult. And like, I'm sure you must see this all the time as a coach here as well. That people come in, I am sometimes one of those people come in like 2-3 times a day and then doing no recovery and then wondering why are you getting so injured, or why are you feeling fatigued, or why are you not progressing at all. Like
that is a big one too, is the progressing. It's like, why am I not progressing? I'm doing so much work. Yeah. It's like, okay, well, there's so many factors you have to think about. Your sleep, what you're eating, if you're going to CrossFit, Metcon, booty, jiu-jitsu or whatever it is, like you're doing 4 classes a day. It's like sometimes, you know, bringing it back down a little bit more is actually going to progress you further. And sometimes rather than going to a hardcore class and then another hardcore class, maybe go and either do mobility or some skill work, right? Like yesterday, me and Erin, we just wanted to have some fun, so we were just playing around on our hands, right? Just as like a little break, not to like hammer our bodies over and over again. Yeah. You know, skill is always huge, and everyone needs to work on the skills, right? So why not take 10 minutes just playing around, right?
Oh, it's so true. And I think, like, this is probably what I see most in CrossFit, that people think it's so fun, because it is. Like, if you're doing CrossFit, you love it. Like, there's no one who hates CrossFit will do it. Like,
exactly.
You love doing getting
just comes in, I hate this. Yeah, like, I mean, we joke about hating it, but like, we actually love it.
Like, when you're running those 1,000 meters with the fucking sandboard, like, fucking, why am I playing with this shit? But then you feel so good after, and you feel so good, and it's with the community as well. It is so freaking addictive. Oh, yeah. So it does not surprise me. Like, every time I hear a story about someone getting pulled out of an eating disorder because they started CrossFit, I'm like, I'm not surprised, because it is so addictive. But because it is so addictive and there's always something to work on, like you're talking about skill work. So when she says that, she means like muscle ups and handstand walking and like, you know, improving like the snatch, like stuff that are really, really complicated and technical. And there is always something that you can improve, because it is such a mixture of, you know, there's running, there's jumping, there's
skipping.
There's freaking swimming even now.
When I first skipped at CrossFit, I was like, did I ever skip as a kid? Because I could not get it. My body was like, what are you trying to do to me right now? And I was like, skip, come on.
It took me 6 months to learn double unders.
Yeah, it took me forever too. And my first CrossFit Open, the last workout was double unders and thrusters. And I didn't have my double unders yet, so it took me like almost 20 minutes for this workout. And then when I redid it with double unders, I think it took me maybe 6 minutes. So that's what that gap was, of just knowing double unders. It was just like, why can't I get this movement already?
It is so difficult, and it's so tempting to, like, when you have an injury, like now you have your shoulder injury, I'm sure you're tempted to be like, oh, now I can work extra on my legs and like do other stuff. But then you overdo it in another area, and then that's fucked. And then the other bit heals up, and you can start, like, it's such a hard cycle to break. Is that something that, especially coming from like an eating disorder kind of background, I assume that you have a little bit of like an all or nothing mindset with stuff like this?
I do.
How do you overcome this kind of stuff? You mentioned before that you're like, I've let down your coach and whatever. Like, how did you get to where you are now?
I mean, sometimes I still have that problem of like, I've done class a few times, because sometimes training alone is really hard. So sometimes I need that community aspect. And even the other week I was like, okay, I think I was taking a few days off, but I was like, okay, I'm going to go and do class. I need to chill out in this class. I didn't chill out because we had so many friends. When it's friends, you're like, okay, let's go. Who's going to get it this time? But trying to remind myself. So a lot of the times I've given myself this tool where it's like, okay, however you're feeling that day, if I need to go a little bit less, then I'm going to give myself an RPE for that day. So rate of perceived exertion, whatever that is out of 10. So your max number is 100%. If I'm giving myself a 6, I'm going at 60%, and you have to stick to that. And I know when I do that, I feel way better at the end. Sometimes it gets hard because you look at people and you're like, shit, I'm last or something. I remember last year, the first time I actually gave myself an RPE in a class, I was almost last. And in my head, I was like, I can beat most of these people right now. And that's what kept going through my head. But then the other side was like, it doesn't matter, right? You're listening to your body right now, and this is going to be so much better for you in the long run, right? Yeah. So I feel like it is a mental battle, but if you can find tools that work for you, like that one works for me most of the time, then yeah, stick with that tool, right? Yeah. I always say we have this toolbox, like learn from other people, put that tool in your toolbox. If you never use it again, cool, but at least you have all these different tools. As a coach, I give people cues all the time. Maybe the first 4 don't work, but I still got another tool. We're going to try this next one, right? Yeah. It's all about finding those tools, and then which one works for you, you stick with it. Yeah. And maybe over time that tool will start to fade away and you'll find a new one, and that's fine too, but at least we're trying, right?
Yes, I love that. And I think it's so easy to get caught in like the percentage work, and like 80% of your 1RM, you meant to squat on today. And then if you're feeling like shit that day, probably not that safe to squat at 80%.
You don't have to do it.
So doing it from more like, not from your all-time 1RM, but more from how are you feeling today. Yeah. I think that is so, so important. And it's something that we all need reminders of, because we all, like, we do CrossFit because we like to train hard. If we didn't like to go hard, we would do freaking, I don't know, some easy kind of sport. I don't even know what that would be. Not CrossFit.
Power walking.
Yeah. Totally. Come and get all the hate mails down from the power walkers. It's actually really hard. I
kind of like it sometimes. It works your butt.
Oh, God. I remember so for me, when I was struggling with eating disorder, like, basically half my class had an eating disorder. It was like the trendy thing at the time. Yeah. And everyone was power walking. Like, literally, we all had like those, walking, what's it called?
Oh, the sticks?
Yeah, the sticks, with the weights at the bottom. Because it burned more calories or whatever.
Oh my gosh,
and we're all walking like hours and hours in the snow all together. Like, oh my God, looking back, I'm
that's
like,
insane.
What the fuck were we doing?
Just these weighted sticks.
Oh,
let's go.
Yes! And it was just like, I remember all the guys were making fun of us, and then I'm like, yeah, I can see why now.
Yeah.
I get it.
I get it now.
Yeah, I wasn't an idiot back then. But I learned from it, so here we are now.
Yeah.
So you're moving, where are you moving to again?
To Texas for 2 weeks, 2 months.
Crazy. And this is to train with like more high level athletes? Or
a few games athletes. They were on a team this year. Gonna go train with them. One of them that was on a team is trying to go individual as well. So her and I will just push each other. And like, there are people out there that can train alone and be fine with that for their whole lives. Like Matt Fraser, I don't know how he did it, but I mean, I guess he trained with Tia here and there and Katrin for a while too, but like, I feel like I need that push because I know that I do have that extra. I know how to push myself. I know how to freaking black out. But when I'm with people, I know how to push even harder. And that's just that competitive little edge. Like, even if it doesn't matter, if it's just in a class, it's kind of like, okay, I'm going to freaking, I'm going to beat you. But in the end, it doesn't matter. But I know that I have that extra push. So, I think it'll help. But maybe I'll go and I won't like it, but I just know for me, if I don't try it, then I'll be kicking myself, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely, go for it. Do you think that you'll come back here after, or do you think you'll go back home? Or?
I'll go back home, but then we'll come back here in September.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Bali feels more like home now.
Yeah, it's kind of a halfway home, because I have to have the mountains at home. It's just, I live an hour away from the Rocky Mountains, and they're like my second home, so I have to have them. I was like, Jake, I don't care if you want to live here all year round, I need my mountains. Yeah. So, but he's the same. He's just like, I know. When he's here, he's just like, no, I could live here forever. But then when we get back home, it's like, oh yeah, we need the mountains. We need them so much.
Yeah, and I feel like just when you've grown up with something that you just miss it, it's just always going to have like a special place in your heart.
For sure. Yeah.
So I think that's completely normal. What is something that you're really working on this season to improve?
Mentally, I'm trying to work on being more decisive, because I'm a very indecisive person.
Interesting.
Yeah, being decisive. Physically, I'm trying to work on my power output, just being a more powerful athlete, because I'm a more endurance athlete, so I can just hold on for a lot longer, but I need to just learn how to be more powerful. So
yeah, oh my god. So Hattie and I did that competition a few weeks ago, and she was in the elite category, and I was just in the normal pleb category for the normal people. And there was one event that we had to like get a sandball. How heavy was yours? 50 kilos?
Yeah.
Over like this huge box, like 2 boxes stacked on each other, jump over, or do a burpee, jump over, and then do muscle ups in the rings. And she was with 2 guys, and I think you did like pretty much the whole workout. I was just standing there watching. I was like,
it's like, let's go. And then we had a sand party because ours was exploding. It was hilarious.
I saw that. There was sand everywhere.
We exploded 2 sandbags. I was like, how is this happening to us? It's not like we're like slamming it onto the ground, but we were pretty aggressive. We were just like, let's go, come on, let's go, we gotta go. That was such a tough workout.
She is not stopping. Like, so yeah, endurance for you, yeah, I can see that.
Just
I understand.
Keep going.
Yeah. It was just no stopping. And like, I did the scaled version of that workout, and I was dying. I don't know how you kept going.
Hey, I was still dying.
Yeah.
But it was fun. Yeah.
It was.
I love grinding just long workouts, because you could just sit there and grind it out. You just gotta grind. It hurts, but you just gotta go dig deep.
Oh, fuck. So you said you're indecisive. What do you mean by that?
Just any kind of decision that I gotta make, I'm just like, well, what do you want to do? You know, or whatever.
Even like
it
with food and stuff. Like when you know the type of person when you go out, like, I don't know, you pick.
Yeah.
You go, tell us where we're going.
I hate it all the time, because I'm like, I wish I could just be like, okay, I'm gonna grab that, we're good. And when I am more decisive, I'm like, that felt good. Where things are just happening, right?
Yeah,
where I'm not sitting there, and then I just get upset with myself, and then I don't even want to make a decision. And when I'm hangry and that happens, I get even more hangrier, and it just is not good.
Fair enough.
So that's one of my New Year's resolutions kind of thing. But yeah, there's a few. But always working on mindset too. And yeah, I had a mindset coach last year when I was in Bali, actually, and he helped me so much. But I feel like, just like I said with CrossFit, when you start go, and some things kind of lag behind, I think I've kind of let it slip a little bit. So I'd like to just get a little bit more, what's the word? I just like to work on it more, on my mindset. So yeah,
it is
I'm getting lazy with it a little bit.
So. I think it's one of those things that is hard to keep yourself accountable to work on unless you are working with a coach. Because when you're going to the gym, like, you can clearly see that you're making progress in the weights and the speed and whatever. You're getting fitter.
Yeah.
But with your mindset, it's like, am I actually changing anything?
Yeah.
Like, how am I getting stronger mentally? Like, what's actually happening for me? Or like, even forgetting to do it, because we're all lazy people. That's just humans.
Yeah.
So we forget if we're not actually setting reminders and actually putting aside time to work on ourselves.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. One thing that's helped me, though, this might be a tool you guys can take home, but like something that's helped me, say in a long workout or something, is we're allowed to write on the floor with chalk here. But lately, especially, I actually had a 10-kilometer row that I had to do for a test.
Oh,
and it was so gross, but in the end, I just like, I don't know if anyone has gotten the runner's high before, or like the cardio high before. It feels like, it's like the best, you know? If I could just always feel that, it would be so great. But yeah, I ended up getting that at the very end, and that's because I had written on the ground, "You are strong, keep going," just like stuff that kind of pumped me up. And it was right by the rower, and it even helped the guy that, Rudy, he did it with us too. And Rudy was like, yeah, during it, I looked down at 1.2 and was like, oh yeah, just keep going. keep going. And at the end, all of a sudden, that's when I got my like endurance high or my runner's high. And it just feels like you're so tingly. And I was like, yeah, come on, let's go. And I just found another level and it was crazy. But yeah, that helped me just kind of keep going. And even on lifts and stuff, just put, you are strong, or like, let's fucking go. Right?
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, you always have like a special routine when you're lifting. It's so, I love watching it.
Very aggressive.
It's very aggressive, but I love it because it's like your lifts are just so pretty as well.
Well,
like you just look so snappy.
Because I'm telling my mind it's go time. So my mindset, that was one of the things that he taught me, was like, you need to have a little bit of a slap. Or I think his is like slap, slap or something. Yeah. Maybe a trap slap or something. I was like, let's slap the ass. Yeah. So mine is like slap the ass, then I go up to the bar and stomp my foot. That's because the stomp has always been there. And he was like, the only thing you're changing is just adding some kind of thing that's stimulating, so then it's telling your mind it's go time. Yeah. So when I first started doing it, I had to do it for everything, even WODs. He's like, this is going to transfer well into your strength stuff, but I want you doing it to everything right now, just so you can start teaching your brain, hey, when you slap your own ass, it is go time. And yeah, it's just, it does work, because I find sometimes when I don't do it, I'm just a little bit more lazy, or I'm not as tight in my setup. But when you do that, it's like, whoa, okay. It's like you're slapping the horse, like, let's go, whoa, okay.
No, and it's so true that, like, and your mind is so freaking powerful as well. Like, it has to be there. They always say that your body will give up before your mind. The other way around. Your mind will give up before your body.
It's so true too, and especially with us females, I feel like we have all these tabs open, right? So we're just like, oh, this thing happened today, and blah, blah, blah. We're always thinking about so many things, but then all of a sudden you're just like, bam, it's go time. Yeah. All those tabs go away. It's frickin' go time.
Yeah, yes, I love that. I'm going to start doing that for my lifting. What do you feel like has been the biggest thing taking you from, like, normal hobby CrossFit to now elite level?
Ooh. What has? Like, what do you mean by that, I guess?
Like, is there anything that you've done differently with your training, or nutrition, or mindset?
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, it's a little bit of everything, obviously. I feel like my training is kind of stayed the same in the sense of, like, doing double days and like trying to listen to my body and stuff. I think nutrition was a huge piece of it as well, where I just wanted performance. I had performance goals. I also at first had like some goals to like lean down a little bit. And yeah, once I actually started tracking macros, I had a really bad mindset towards it just because of the eating disorder. I didn't want to, be disciplined in that area, or I felt like it was just going to go downhill. So for the longest time, I steered away from it. But then once I started doing it, I was able to like figure it out, and then only have to use the scale sometimes. And that felt so much better. And I was more intuitively eating, which was great. And so yeah, nutrition was huge, and then mindset was huge as well. That's just kind of what changed a lot of things in my training. And I guess, if I could pick 3, because the other one is actually doing less in my training, because I was pretty overworked and I had a really bad imbalance. So when I worked with a guy here, Matt Bolt, he really helped me out with that. And at first I was like, I don't think I'm getting enough volume, right? But the stuff that he was giving me was just amazing, and he helped me with my imbalances, helped me get hella strong. It was just... It helped a lot. Like, coaches still need coaches, and obviously I'm an athlete now too, but yeah, it helped a ton. He started things off really, really great. So
I feel like those are the 3 things that people always tend to overlook as well. Rest, nutrition, and mindset. Yeah. People are like, no, I'm just going to go in and train like an athlete all day long, and then they completely forget about everything else.
Yeah, and it's not like all 3 happened at once. Like, I think my nutrition was the first thing to really try to change. And then when I came here, I was like, okay, let's get a coach. Let's just, it's time to get a coach, not just jumping in with everybody's things. Like, if you want this, you need to be regimented.
Yeah.
And then finally, I actually asked a games athlete, I was like, what was the biggest thing that changed for you? And she's like, that's kind of a loaded question. Like, there was a lot of things. And I was like, okay, but if you could pick one, like, really important thing. And then she said mindset, gave me her mindset coach. And sure enough, yeah, it was just like, holy shit, I needed this really bad.
Yeah.
And, like, I have a really crazy mindset with money, like, not a great money mindset. But the second we talked, him and I, and he told me the price, I was like, yeah, I don't even care what the price was. And I knew I needed it for me. And it just felt so good where I was like, that is investing in me, and that's fine,
100%.
Right?
And the money side of things always works out. Like every time you make a big investment, whether that is buying a house or buying a trip or investing in a coach, like, yeah, it's fucking scary putting all that money towards something.
Yeah.
But it always works out.
Yeah.
Always. Like, never is going to be a time when you're like, you know what, I have nothing.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, if there's something that you really want to do, like, if you're thinking of signing up to Women's Fitness Academy, coming to Bali with us, maybe, do it. Like, money's going to work. The money side always works out, and it's always worth it in the end. Like, the best investment you ever make is within yourself. So, always worth it. I see now we've been going for 15 minutes already. Jesus Christ. Last question. Who is your biggest idol in CrossFit?
Oh, that's a tough one. I'd probably have to say Laura Horvath. I love her. I'm Hungarian as well.
Yeah.
So, her and Emily Rolfe. Emily Rolfe, she's a fellow Canadian, and she started at 30, and I'm always like, I'm 31, like, I'm getting too old. But no, if she can do it, I can freaking do it. And
absolutely. Yeah,
she's an absolute beast. So they both are, and yeah, I look up to them a lot.
Oh, well, I can see a lot of you in them as well. Thank you so much again for coming on. If people want to find you, like, are you taking on online clients or anything like that? Or
online gymnastics clients, yes. Yep. And that's the link in my bio on my Instagram, which is Hattie Kanyo.
We'll link to it in the show notes as well. Yeah. Awesome. And also, obviously, guys, they'll miss you though when they come in February. But if you come later in the year, Hattie will probably still be at Wanderlust.
Yeah.
So you can meet her in person. But yeah, go make sure you follow her journey on Instagram. And if you have any questions about anything, like, just message her. She's super nice. She looks like a big beast and strong girl, but she's super lovely, of course, as you can tell. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you like this episode, please make sure you do take a screenshot, put it on your story, tag myself, tag Women's Fitness Academy, tag Hattie, so we can connect with you and hear what you thought. And yeah, hopefully see you guys in Bali.
Bye.
Bye.